This eye has not blinked in 66 million years. Frozen inside its amber lens, the final image it captured. The exact moment an entire world went silent. Today, we look through it. One eye, one vanished world. As a 66 million years, there existed a world that no longer exists. Warm, shallow seas, ferns taller than houses, skies painted in colors we will never see. The late Cretaceous was not a place, it was a kingdom. That kingdom had rulers and quiet observers who watched empires rise and fall for 180 million years. Picture the geography. North America is split by a vast inland ocean called the Western Interior Seaway. India is still an island, drifting north toward Asia. Antarctica is green. The poles carry no permanent ice. Global temperature ran almost 10 degrees warmer than today. The air was thick, humid, alive with giant insects. The light itself was different. Volcanic dust from the Deccan Traps had thinned the upper atmosphere for millennia.
Sunsets lasted longer. Dawns arrived in shades of copper and rose. Every morning burned amber through Mesozoic mist. Every evening dissolved into a bruised violet no photograph could ever recreate. Into this light walked giants. Into this light watched something we now call, simply, the Watcher. In the badlands of Montana, a discovery. Paleontologists uncovered a fossil unlike any other. Not a bone, not a footprint, a single preserved eye. Its sclerotic ring, the bony crown that held its shape, still intact. Traces of pigment still readable. And within the mineralized retina, faint patterns that some researchers believe encode the last light it ever received. Subscribe to continue the journey to a world that no longer exists. Activate the bell for the next chapter. Today we reconstruct the final day of the Mesozoic through that eye, following its gaze from forests to seas, from herds to hunters, from the last calm morning to the second the sky ignited above them. We will meet the creatures it watched, and name at last the being that ancient eye belonged to. But whose eye was it truly? And what did it see across that vanished, twilight-lit ancient world? To answer, we must first meet the most feared predator of the final Cretaceous, El Depredador más temido. That two-legged giant weighed close to 9 tons and measured over 12 meters from snout to sweeping tail. Tyrannosaurus rex. The name is familiar. The animal itself, remarkably, remains far less understood than we imagine. Recent studies of preserved Tyrannosaurus skulls have revealed something truly remarkable about the creature's vision and senses. The sclerotic ring, the same bony structure preserved in our silent watcher, was unusually, strikingly large indeed. This bony ring supported an eyeball roughly the size of an orange, granting extraordinary binocular vision and focus. Its depth perception rivaled a modern hawk, and it carried crucial adaptations for hunting in low, fading light. The Tyrannosaurus was a twilight predator, not the creature of noon, but of the long copper hour. Its retina, reconstructed from related theropods, contained a high density of rod cells finely tuned for gloom. It saw movement in shadow the way an owl sees a small scurrying mouse in silver moonlight. Now, how does an eye even fossilize? This is where the science becomes genuinely strange and delicate. Soft tissue almost never survives. Bacteria consume it within days of death, leaving virtually nothing behind at all. But under very specific conditions. Rapid burial in fine sediment, low oxygen, mineral-rich groundwater, miracles quietly occur. The delicate structures can be replaced molecule by molecule by phosphate or ancient iron compounds over deep time. The final result is a ghost, a stone copy of something that once was warm, living flesh. This is called exceptional preservation. It happens perhaps once in every 10 million fossils, a rarity beyond measure. When it happens to an eye, when the sclerotic ring survives with faint pigment traces on its inner rim, La Ciencia Moderna reveals what no bone alone could tell us: color sensitivity, field of view, waking hours. Pigments recovered from our watcher suggest sensitivity across a wide spectral range, including deep reds and near ultraviolet light. This is not the eye of a purely nocturnal creature. This is an eye built for ambiguous hours, the hunting hours, the dying hours. Yet this hunter was not alone in that fatal final hour. Beyond the reach of any single predator, the late Cretaceous was a vast, moving tapestry of criaturas prehistóricas. Herds of hadrosaurs, the duck-billed dinosaurs, crossed the flat plains in numbers that darkened the distant horizon. Edmontosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Corythosaurus. Some traveled in enormous groups of 10,000 across the continental flatplains. The footprints preserved in ashbeds across the American West tell of migrations lasting weeks and hundreds of kilometers. They fed on the low ferns and the tender shoots of magnolia beneath the Paleolithic haze of dawn. They called to one another through hollow crests that resonated like brass instruments echoing across the open plains. On the final day, they were doing what they had always done: walking, feeding, watching quietly for danger. The danger came in many forms. Not just the great tyrant that reigned above all others in raw strength. Ankylosaurus, a living tank clad in bony plates, moved slowly through the ash-lit undergrowth of the flat plain. Its tail club could shatter the leg bone of any predator foolish enough to strike from behind it. It grazed on low vegetation, unhurried, ancient in its patience, moving as it had for millions of years. In the muted light of that final morning, its armor glinted the weathered color of old dulled pewter. Above the herds, the sky belonged to the pterosaurs. Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying animal that ever lived. It spread wings nearly 11 meters across, soaring on thermals above the vast inland sea, hunting fish. From the height of its flight, the world was a mosaic of green forest, silver river, sudden blue seaway. And beneath every fern, in every burrow, in the shadows of every fallen log, small mammals watched. They were rat-sized, some smaller. Ptilodus, Alphadon, Purgatorius. They ate insects, seeds, and the eggs of others. They lived in fear. They lived at night. They had no idea they would soon inherit everything. The ecosystem was a machine of terrible balance. Every predator required prey. Every prey required plant to survive. Every plant required the steady rhythm of rain and sun and season. Remove one gear and nothing moves. On the final day, every gear was still turning perfectly, as it had for 130 million years. Above them, something stranger still watched from the sky. For decades, we assumed the watcher was a dinosaur. It seemed obvious. A large eye preserved in Cretaceous sediment must belong to one of the great reptiles. But recent analysis has forced us to reconsider. The sclerotic ring shows growth patterns unlike any known dinosaur. The pigment distribution suggests adaptation to deep water. Isotope signatures place the burial not on solid land, but on the muddy floor of what was once the Great Western Interior Seaway, a hunter from below. Our watcher may have been a mosasaur, true rulers of the late Cretaceous oceans, closer to monitor lizards than dinosaurs. Mosasaurus hoffmanni could reach 17 meters, swimming with a shark-like tail, jaws holding 2 rows of curved, deadly teeth. Its eyes were engineered for the crushing dim of mid-ocean depth and the sudden bright of surface shallows. On land, a quiet revolution unfolded. Dromaeosaurs, the raptors of imagination, were revealed by modern discoveries to be feathered, not scales, feathers, some in bright reds, some in iridescent blues. La Ciencia Moderna revela colors we never imagined.
Velociraptor, in life, likely resembled a monstrous intelligent bird more than a lizard, a warm, cunning predator. The eye of the mosasaur concerns us. If our watcher was marine, its final image was not a forest, not a herd, not a rain of ash falling through ferns. It was something rising from beneath the sea, something arriving from above, something that changed the sky and the water in the very same devastating second. The Watcher's true identity rewrites the extinction story. Let us return now to that final catastrophic prehistoric day. It began like any other. The sun rose through familiar copper haze. The hadrosaurs moved slowly north together. The Tyrannosaurus rested in the shade of a redwood grove, digesting a kill from the previous night. The mosasaur cruised silently at depth, following the migration of great fish through the vast ancient inland seaway. But something was wrong. Modern research into the hours before the impact has uncovered strange atmospheric anomalies.
Isotope readings from the final sediment layer suggest a sudden shift in air pressure across the ancient sky. Analysis of preserved plant stomata indicates a brief spike in atmospheric particulates just before the end came. Last growth rings of Cretaceous trees show a compressed pattern in what may have been their final week. The animals felt it before we could measure it. Modern studies show behavioral shifts hours or days ahead. Birds fall silent, herd animals move to higher ground. Predators retreat to dance as unseen dread arrives. On the final day of the Cretaceous, something in Earth's magnetic field warned the animals to be still. The vibration of distant impact, the low hum of an approaching object, whispered across the trembling ancient land. The hunt that followed was recorded in a bone bed near what is now Tanis, North Dakota, forever preserved. There, paleontologists uncovered fossilized remains of fish with impact glass spherules trapped inside their delicate final breathing gills. Tiny beads of melted rock ejected from Chicxulub crater rained thousands of kilometers away within minutes of impact. The fish were breathing them in as they died, drawing molten glass into lungs beneath a burning sky. The final hunt, the final chase, the final collision happened not before the impact, but as sky fell. Los secretos de un ecosistema al borde revealed inside stone by modern science after 66 million years. The Watcher, whatever it was, opened its eye upon a world already ending in silence and light. And what it saw next, no eye had ever seen before across all deep history of Earth. Then the sky itself began to change color as the impactor arrived at 11 miles per second from darkness. A stony asteroid, roughly 10 to 15 kilometers wide, tumbling on a trajectory calculated over 4 billion years. It struck the shallow sea over what is now Yucatan, releasing the energy of 10 billion Hiroshima bombs. In the first second, a hole opened 20 kilometers deep. Vaporized rock blasted upward at escape velocity. It punched through the atmosphere entirely. A column of molten debris rose into space, spreading across the northern hemisphere. In the first minute, a shockwave of superheated air raced outward at the speed of sound across land. Every living thing within 1,000 kilometers was killed instantly by the pressure alone. Silence beyond silence. In the first 10 minutes, a tsunami over a kilometer high radiated across the Gulf, sweeping inland. It scoured ecosystems from the shelf. The western interior seaway, home of our mosasaur, felt it first.
In the first hour, ejected debris fell back through the atmosphere across the entire planet. Trillions of tiny meteors. Multiplied by trillions, they turned the sky into a global oven. Surface temperatures spiked to hundreds of degrees. Forests ignited spontaneously. Rocks cracked open. The very atmosphere itself began to burn across the darkened world. Somewhere in that hour, our watcher was buried. Not by the wave, not by the raging fire. A sudden avalanche of oxygen-poor sediment sealed its body, preserving the delicate tissues of the eye forever. The mundo perdido del Mesozoico ended that afternoon. Within 24 hours, most large animals across North America were dead. Within a week, the global fires had consumed the majority of forested land across the entire planet. Within a year, so much soot and sulfur clogged the upper atmosphere that sunlight fell to 1%. This was impact winter, and it lasted years. Plants could not photosynthesize. Herbivores starved. Carnivores followed them into extinction. The great chain of the Cretaceous collapsed link by link, from top to bottom, until almost nothing remained. 75% of all species on Earth were gone. And then, silence. A silence deeper than ever before. A silence this planet had not known since the origin of animals. No footfall, no call, no song. Only the slow settling of ash and the muffled sound of wind through dead and blackened branches. But the eye preserved something no one expected. Researchers examined the fossilized retina under high-resolution scanning equipment. They found more than pigment. They found structure. Faint, debated, but present. A pattern of preserved cells. Some scientists controversially proposed this may represent the final chemical shadow of the last image the animal saw. This is called the last retinal image hypothesis, and it remains hotly contested among modern paleontologists today.
The chemistry, they argue, does not support such long-term preservation of neural information within ancient fossil tissue. But the pattern itself is undeniable. Something was imprinted, something was fixed, something survived across 66 million years. Isotope analysis of the surrounding sediment confirms the timing precisely at the boundary between Cretaceous and Paleocene. This geological line is known as the KPG boundary, where iridium from the asteroid forms a global blanket. Below it lie the last dinosaur bones. Our watcher rests within a single millimeter of that boundary. It died in the exact window of the impact, its final hours recorded in the mineral composition of stone. Misterios prehistóricos are usually inferential. We read behavior from bones and reconstruct color from ancient preserved feathers. But an eye is different. An eye is a receiver, still receiving on the day the signal ended. What did it see? The dominant hypothesis is that its final image was a blinding wall of light, not the impactor itself, which struck far away, but the reflected flash arcing across the upper atmosphere, a false dawn from the wrong direction, a sky brighter than the sun for a fraction of a second. The pigment distribution on the preserved retinal surface is heavily skewed toward that precise catastrophic scenario of blinding light. The highest concentration of degraded photoreceptor material lies along the entire upper hemisphere of the fossilized eye, as if, in its final conscious moment, the ancient watcher had turned its gaze upward toward the burning sky. Why is this fossil unique in the record? The conditions required to preserve it are almost mathematically impossible. Rapid burial, anoxic sediment, mineral-rich groundwater. The precise timing of one single catastrophic sedimentation event finally converging together. A cascade of impossible coincidences, each rare, all aligned. This preserved eye is a true statistical miracle. It is the closest thing paleontology has ever found to a photograph of the end of the world. One world ended, but another was already waking beneath the ashes of the vast fallen Mesozoic forests. In burrows that had shielded them from the thermal pulse, the small mammals stirred, hungry and terrified. They were also, for the first time in 160 million years, unafraid of anything larger. The age of dinosaurs was over. The age of mammals had begun. The Paleocene dawned cold and grey. The sun, when it returned, was a pale disk behind veils of dust and lingering volcanic ash. Ferns grew back first from surviving spores. then flowering plants, then insects, then the small survivors emerged. Among those survivors were the direct ancestors of every mammal alive today. Every whale, every bat, every elephant, every human being reading these words descends from creatures no larger than a squirrel huddled beneath the ash. The next watcher was already opening its eyes. In our next chapter, we will follow those small survivors. We will meet the strange, experimental mammals of the earliest Paleocene with teeth like nothing before or since, predators that briefly rivaled dinosaurs in size, the first primates, the first true carnivores, the first hooves. An entire world rebuilt from scratch in the vast shadow of the fallen giants of the Mesozoic era. Suscríbete para continuar el viaje a un mundo que ya no existe. Activa la campana para nuevos capítulos. El próximo episodio te llevará a la era de los sobrevivientes. The Age of Survivors awaits us. The Watcher's eye has not blinked in 66 million years. Yet now, at last, we have looked through it. What that ancient eye saw, we will never forget.